Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Our webinar will begin shortly. If you have any questions for today's speaker, please utilize the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. We'll do our best to address as many questions as possible during our Q&A session at the end of the webinar. And thank you in advance for submitting these. Welcome to HRCI Insights. This webinar series provides insights on current HR services, developments, and technologies. We appreciate you joining us today. Just a few housekeeping items to address before we get started. This is an interactive session. Please use the chat box to let us know where you're tuning in from. The chat is also a great way to expand your professional network and to learn from each other. We kindly ask that you limit your LinkedIn profile shares, and please ensure that you keep all comments professional and respectful. We want HRCI Insights to be accessible to everyone, so we have closed caption running. If you do not need this service, please click on Show Captions across the bottom of your screen and then choose Caption Options to hide subtitles. If you are new to HRCI, we welcome you. If you are a returning attendee, we are so happy to see you again. We're honored that you joined us today, and we encourage you to bring a friend next time, whether they are certified or not. My name is Sarah Richardson, and I am the Regional Sales Manager for HRCI. And today's webinar topic is the relationship economy, where human connection is the new capital. I am so excited to introduce you to today's speaker, Debra Squyres. As Bonusly's Chief Customer Officer, Debra combines her passion for an exceptional customer experience with her drive to empower companies to connect, motivate, and engage their employees to build winning workplaces. Prior to Bonusly, Debra was the VP of CS at Beamerang and the Chief Client Officer at Namely. She has over 25 years of experience in senior leadership roles in human resources, ranging from in-house HR leadership to HR consulting, outsourcing, client services, and customer success, working directly with HR teams across a variety of industries. And she currently resides in Fort Worth, Texas with her husband. Debra, you can take it from here.
Thanks so much, Sarah. I'm excited to be here with you today. And as we get our slide deck up and shared, I'll just share with you, I used to update my years of experience every year. And then I realized at 25 that you could stop. That's enough. So if you've heard me speak previously and heard the 25 years and it's been a few years, just know that just like once you turn 29, you don't have to age after that. Kind of take the same approach here. So I'm excited to be with you today, coming from sunny Fort Worth, Texas. We had storms this morning. I saw a few people are in the North Texas area. I was a little concerned about the weather, but it's nice and sunny again. So that makes me super happy. Let me just make sure. Yep, I've got the slides up and running. So let me just start by sharing that Bonusly's mission is to make work better. And I know that many of you feel compelled and called to make the workplace better. That's why you've chosen a field that is often thankless. People just expect for you to take care of their needs in the workplace. And so this next hour is really about you and arming you with the insights and information that you need to help you not only make work better for your teams, but to also share the insights and compelling statistics that will help your leaders make good decisions around their investments in their people. We know that the path to a highly engaged, thriving workforce is recognition done right. But you may be wondering, what does she really mean by that? Recognition done right is not about rewarding good work with cheap prizes. It's about making employees feel seen and valued and motivated to grow. Many programs focus on optics over impact, offering impersonal praise, just attaboys and attagirls or great jobs, hollow awards, and really just miss the mark. Many so-called recognition companies focus solely on rewards and are really reward aggregators rather than enabling meaningful, visible recognition. It's only the latter that has real-world impact on individuals and their companies. Bonusly takes a very different approach to this. We believe that frequent, specific, multi-directional recognition that reinforces company values, builds meaningful connections, and highlights in great detail the work that matters, fuels employee and business success. When recognition is done right, it creates a workplace where everyone feels empowered to do their best work. So that's the focus of recognition done right and what we mean when we say that term. Welcome to the relationship economy. In a world where AI is automating processes and knowledge has become a commodity, connection is really the new currency. I'm excited to share more with you on the State of Recognition report that Bonusly just released. Our team completed a comprehensive analysis of both proprietary user data and third-party research to build out this report, looking at recognition trends and data from, excuse me, from about 1.7 million active customers and users, as well as market research from external experts and consultations with Bonusly customers. We blended quantitative and qualitative insights to get the best understanding of how recognition has evolved in the modern workplace, why it matters, and its impact on organizational culture and employee experience. There are three primary sections to the research, and I'll cover all three. The first is the data. So we'll walk through third-party research and the realities of today's workplace. And then we'll take a deeper dive into our proprietary and user data. We'll bring context to both the proprietary and third-party research to help you make sense of it and see how it's applicable in your workplaces. And then we'll talk through some use cases and how recognition is used to hit specific goals within a company. This should really help you in aligning your internal business cases to gain investment or buy-in from leadership on doing recognition right within your workplace. And then we'll talk about three big trends shaping the relationship economy and how to capitalize on those. So we'll start by walking through first some of the well-regarded third-party research on today's workforce. Among the 12 engagement elements that Gallup measures, those that saw the most significant declines in 2024 included clarity of expectations, feeling someone at work cares about them as a person, and someone encouraging their development. And these are three critical pillars in the employee experience that I want to hone in on a bit more as it relates to recognition done right. So clarity of expectations, less than half of employees say that they clearly know what's expected of them at work. It's really hard to achieve what's expected if you don't know what's expected. So that in and of itself is a really compelling and sad scenario. But then you add to that less than 40% of employees feel that someone at work cares about them as a person. You hear examples of people feeling like they are just a number or just a producer of outcomes, and they aren't cared about as an individual. And then finally, someone caring about their development. Only 30% of employees believe that someone is encouraging their growth and development. And we know that that's a really critical area for people to feel like they are being invested in so that they will then go above and beyond to bring that discretionary effort. Gallup now measures worker loneliness and is reporting that a whopping 1 in 5, or 20% of employees worldwide feel lonely. And for those who are tempted to say that's because we need to return to office or because we went distributed or because we let people work remotely, let me assure you, this is not about going remote. Proximity does not create connection, engagement, or a sense of belonging. Proximity does not ensure alignment or a sense of purpose, and proximity does not ensure people understand what's expected of them. All of these factors are fueling the great detachment. And engagement levels, as a result, are dismally low. But it's really not surprising, is it? For those of us who work in the space, we're not surprised at the state of engagement in the modern workplace. We all know that managers are critical to the experience and engagement of their teams and to executing on company strategy and delivering business results. They're also critical to setting expectations and clarifying what's expected for individuals. But when a whopping 69%, that's more than 2/3 of managers, are disengaged, it's no surprise that less than a third of employees report that they're engaged. It is shocking the level of disengagement at the manager level. So if we take nothing else away from this, let us commit to diligently improving the manager disengagement challenge that we're all facing today. Doing this will have a profound cascading effect on employee engagement, and the power is truly within our control. Now, the data is showing that not every workforce is being equally impacted. We're at risk of losing an entire generation's potential if we don't address engagement for Gen Z. They are a whopping 27% of the workforce today and growing, and they're our future. Keep in mind that current estimates are that 10,000 baby boomers are leaving the workforce every day right now, which is creating a literal vacuum in workplaces that is being filled by Gen Z. So when you compound that with the massive disengagement in Gen Z, it's a critical impact on culture and engagement in the workplace. We've probably all heard the famous phrase that the children are our future. Well, in the workplace, the equivalent is that Gen Z is our future. They're all adults in the workplace, but they are the next generation of leaders. And with their engagement levels at this point, the future is looking pretty darn bleak. Not all industries are impacted in the same way. Shockingly, at least for me, it was a shock. Technology is a top sector suffering with poor engagement. Tech sector disengagement creates incredible risk to our innovation and competitiveness. But it's not just tech. Finance, insurance, transportation, professional services, they've all seen sharp declines in employee engagement. Now, Harvard Business Review has said that the workplace loneliness situation has reached epidemic proportions. And it's not just about addressing loneliness for loneliness' sake, though, as HR practitioners and leaders in companies, I think we can all get behind focusing on the human condition and the empathy that would call us as leaders to want to address this problem. It's worth addressing, but it is not just the feelings aspect of this that I'm going to hone in on here. Even though I strongly advocate for human first approach here, it's not about the feelings. There's a very, very real and negative economic impact as a direct result of employee disengagement. So before we hand wave away engagement as a feelings issue, let's take a look at what it's costing us. Now, take note, these metrics will help you with your own ROI discussions internally with senior executives on the need to fund recognition programs, and that it's an imperative opportunity to drive business performance. So what does engagement or disengagement look like from a financial perspective? I'll say it again, it's not a feelings problem, it's an economic problem. It's not an employer branding play to recruit great talent, though there's value in that as well. Disengagement and attrition are in and of themselves sunk costs. We've literally been burning money with this problem, and it's costing the average 100-person company over $500,000 a year. That is a lot of money. So if you sit back and look around, many of us work in companies of 100 to just a few hundred employees. You can multiply that at scale when you're looking at larger companies. Doesn't it seem like it's too much that we are losing this much money due to disengagement, a problem that is ultimately solvable and in our control? So I want to work through an example really quick, because when I throw out these big numbers, while I believe in the big numbers, a lot of times executives will balk at the numbers and feel like you're alarmist. So let's just walk through an example. Let's say there's an employee who's disengaged. We can even assume the best. They're disengaged, but they want to do good work. They just can't figure out how their work fits into the business purpose, or who their coworkers, who's doing good work, who can they emulate, what does good look like. They get maybe 30 minutes a week with their manager, If those meetings don't get canceled, I think the number one meeting that gets canceled in the workplace today is the manager and employee one-on-one. So you don't get enough time with your leader to truly have the conversations that will help you bring about your best in the workplace and to know what's expected. So let's assume in that situation, productivity reduces by a couple of hours a day, which is about 10 hours a week. That's a loss of about $500 per week. That alone adds up to $26,000. Now imagine the cascading effect on on those who are dependent on the work of that person being done by this employee, and they're experiencing similar disengagement. And worse, imagine if the manager is also disengaged. Do you see how this can snowball in all the wrong ways? Those real dollars add up very quickly. Strangely, we tend to understand that machines need oil, computers need rebooting, even trucks need servicing. Recognition done right is letting people know when they are doing good work and helping them do even better. Because ultimately, we all want to succeed and feel valued. So if you're a manufacturer, you budget for equipment maintenance. A transportation company budgets for maintaining vehicles with oil changes, tire rotations, things like that. Investing in recognition is the human equivalent. In today's economy, nearly every company's largest investment is in the salaries and benefits of their people. Recognition is the path to get a return on your investment from your existing salary spend for your employee base. Discretionary effort that comes from engaged workforce is literally icing on the cake. When you have an engaged workforce, you not only reduce these costs, but you also unlock people's full effort and capabilities for the company. That was a lot. If you're a little depressed after this section, hang tight because the problem is significant for sure, but the solution is straightforward and it's truly within our control. So what's the solution? Recognition is the solution. Effective and visible employee recognition, which is timely, specific, and focused on behaviors that drive measurable results and are aligned to company values, turn disconnected employees and workplaces into thriving ones. When recognition is connected to the mission, vision, and values, employees' sense of alignment and purpose increases. When employees feel valued, their sense of belonging strengthens and their alignment with organizational goals deepens. They personalize those organizational goals. Their willingness to go above and beyond that discretionary effort becomes unlocked. And this doesn't just impact engagement, it's directly connected to driving skill development, improving tenure, and team performance against goals. So we ran a comprehensive analysis of Bonusly's proprietary data and insights in January of this year to understand the benefits and impact of modern employee recognition programs. The analysis includes recognition trends, user behavior, and reward redemption data from 1.7 million active Bonusly customers and users. There are three critical relationships in the workplace: the company with employees, employees with each other, and managers and their team. And the beauty of a modern recognition platform like Bonusly is that it addresses all three. But remarkably, when you democratize the culture through high quality peer-to-peer recognition, you see significant momentum in surfacing the behaviors that drive performance and examples of values being lived out, which create a virtuous cycle. Gallup's best practice for recognition frequency is recognition every 7 days. Remarkably, Bonusly's users receive recognition more than once per week. That is better than recommended by Gallup to drive engagement, and it's delivered largely by employees and through the automation of what used to be very manual, top-down, and HR-led manual recognition, awards, and incentives. So recognition, powered by a modern platform, breaks down barriers and silos in a way that physical proximity and company-driven programs do not. A common misconception of deploying a recognition platform is that people will award their friends. By and large, that's not the case with recognition done right. In fact, in our analysis, 40% of recognition is given across locations and 60% across departments. A recognition platform breaks down silos and increases visibility, communication, and collaboration in ways that top-down programs cannot address. And this culture of habitual recognition has produced significant impact. Again, recognition is not about feel good, but about doing good for the business while key human needs are met in the modern workplace. So companies with high engagement are 23% more profitable than their peers. They achieve 147% better financial performance. They have 32% lower turnover and see 18% more productivity. These are metrics you can take to your CFO and be proud of, drawing that direct connection between recognition done right and company business impact. They're hard-hitting financial implications. So candidly, recognition has had a bad reputation in the past. It's been very much seen as feel good, a nice to have, and it was riddled with legacy platforms who are focused on rewards, not recognition as a form of feedback to drive results as well as engagement. So what's changed? Well, frankly, a lot has changed. First off, modern recognition platforms like Bonusly make it possible to deliver specific, meaningful, explicit, timely and visible recognition to tie behaviors to company impact and outcomes. And because it's visible to everyone, it creates transparency and expectations in what is valued and in the work being done. So we aren't delivering pats on the back for their own sake, but rather a reality where recognition drives actual value. Core values storytelling becomes a manifestation of your values in real life. You can move from posters on a wall or slides in a deck to a very vibrant, values-led culture. New hires can scroll through the recognition feed and see what we mean when we say things like customer-centered, or collaboration, or teamwork, or get results. So speaking of rewards, our data indicates that people cash out for the benefit of others to the tune of $500,000 in donations just over the last year to charity, aligning nearly 11 million recognition posts to company core values. So this isn't the great job on X. This is thanks for taking the extra initiative and demonstrating customer value by joining me on that customer call and helping me solve their problem. These are very specific points of recognition that demonstrate the value that people are bringing day in and day out and what good looks like within the organization. Recognition is a cultural motion driving momentum and outcomes. And while yes, employees do sometimes cash out for rewards for themselves, they also reuse the redeemable points to give to others at a very high rate. This is a profound takeaway, and it directly dispels the myth that I'm in it for me concern that many leaders sometimes have when deploying recognition programs. The second most common reward claimed in Bonusly across millions of individuals was not a reward for themselves at all. It was the recycling of their redeemable points into givable points so that they could then give recognition to their peers and have it have impact and meaning. So they're paying it forward to reinforce performance, goal achievement, and the demonstration of company values rather than cashing out for themselves. This is quite a remarkable situation when you think about really mobilizing your employees to motivate the right behaviors and to drive company performance. So recognition helps employees grow, perform, and stay, which are core ROI components to the function of human resources, but also to any sort of recognition and engagement program. And the industry is growing at a very fast clip because companies have begun to acknowledge the tight alignment between recognition and business performance. Recognition is, in fact, a positive feedback mechanism. So you're catching people at their best, finding them doing great work or having great impact, and you're sharing it and celebrating it publicly, which creates more of those examples, which drive the right outcomes for the business. So there are several different use cases that we see recognition really have impact for companies. And I want to hone in on three very common ones. The first is to build a strong company culture. Often in M&A and in company pivots, you see companies redefine their mission, vision, and values. And modern recognition platforms are used to redefine and operationalize that new mission, vision, and values, or to rally the team around key organizational objectives. A great example of this was our customer Headspace Health when they acquired Ginger. They stepped back to evaluate what did the two combined companies need to accomplish together? What do we stand for as an organization? And they used a modern approach to recognition to roll out their new core values and company initiatives and to mobilize their teams against those. It not only made it fun, it made it visible, and importantly, it made it easy for the company to measure through the platform how values were being lived, where people were, where values were resonating for people, or where maybe the examples didn't quite hit the mark of what they meant by a particular value or initiative. So it gave a feedback loop to leadership to be able to go back and re-educate and expand upon areas where they felt like there wasn't necessarily direct alignment. Many companies have used modern recognition platforms to operationalize new values and new company goals and initiatives during change or as part of their change management initiatives. And importantly, measurement of the adoption of those changes. A second common use case is improving employee retention. And I just love this example. Oftentimes, our companies will push us to go and do an engagement survey. That's awesome. But how many times have you sat in the seat trying to navigate what we do with that feedback and how we turn that feedback into something actionable that has true impact on the next round of the survey or the employee experience? In the case of Marmon Food Service, they got very specific feedback in their employee engagement survey. Marmon is one of about a dozen business units within Marmon Holdings. And one of the things that they are very proud of is that they all consistently measure employee engagement on an annual basis, and they compare amongst the business units. So it's a badge of honor to be at the top of the ranks from an engagement perspective, but that was not the case for Marmon Food Service. However, what they did is they listened to their employees. Their employees in that engagement survey said, we don't feel valued, we don't feel recognized. And they were seeing very high employee turnover. And so their HR leader deployed Bonusly, and within a year of that process and teaching employees how to give recognition in the right way, how to be specific and timely and descriptive in what they're recognizing. They reduced turnover by over 50%. And this business unit is now consistently at the top of the employee engagement ratings across all business units at Marmon. A result that VP is very proud of. But more importantly, in working with her leadership team, they have reduced the cycle of churn and burn with new hires having to be recruited and trained and put into roles and then ultimately leaving at a high pace just to start that process over again. So much time and effort was put into replacing people, and they put a little bit of intentionality into retaining people and had a remarkable impact on the workplace. And then in the final use case that I'll talk about, and I could talk about this all day, but is to really motivate teams to hit business goals. We see this at the company level when companies are really undertaking new initiatives, going into a new market, changing their operations, but we also see it at the manager and the department and the function level. In this quote, I love this quote from a sales manager at Jobber, managers, on the front lines are dealing with different priorities every week, and giving them a modern recognition platform that allows them to reinforce and make fun, or make it a fun initiative to pursue the next focus area, the next goal, and to reward that and to do it publicly and to really make it a virtuous process where people are having fun helping to achieve that goal, becomes really critical. And so understanding that it's not just a top-down initiative, it can actually be at the department or individual manager level to really refine what we're focused on this week or this month and mobilize the team around achieving that and accomplishing that, and then sharing the great stories of how they did that. Then socializes how people are getting that great work done and really inspires the people who are striving to achieve those accomplishments. So it creates motivation and visibility into those strengths. So recognition is really the gateway to capitalizing on the relationship economy and building a thriving, high-performing culture at your company. Recognition done right surfaces the work that matters and work that aligns to achieving company objectives in ways that align to company values for how the work should get done. Historically, we have relied on individual managers to drive this. And I read a statistic last week that I'll share here. 82% of managers are accidentally managers, meaning they were promoted and had no actual real plans to become managers and no formal training to become so. And so we've over relied on managers to do things that we could actually leverage our teams to support. So visibility into these examples of great work, identify what good looks like so others can emulate and aspire to it. Remember that one of the areas of sentiment that has dropped significantly over the last 5 years is in clarity of expectations. This visibility broadens the understanding of the capabilities on the team for leadership as well, where in other circumstances, a leader may only see a small sliver of the body of work of an individual and achievements on their team members. In an open recognition culture, you have a much broader view on employee contributions and their impact, empowering you to coach each team member in more meaningful and focused ways, which helps them grow. It also helps you recognize where their strengths could be leveraged to help their peers develop those skills as well. So these examples not only create a virtuous cycle driving up engagement and performance across the team, but they also surface the people who are excelling in different initiatives and skills that can be leveraged to teach others, which is a really powerful insight. At Bonusly, we believe that people working on teams are the primary drivers of business success. And now, more than ever, your people need to feel deeply connected to their company and their colleagues to unlock high performance. Recognition plays a vital role in building these connections. When employees feel seen, valued, and appreciated, their sense of belonging and purpose are fortified. It bonds individuals to their teams, aligns them with the organization's mission, and motivates them to perform at their best. They're in it for the team, not just for themselves. Recognition really transforms the workplace into a high-achieving community, not just a collection of disconnected and disengaged roles. And then as AI transforms the workforce by taking on routine tasks and providing on-demand knowledge, the value of human-centric skills like collaboration and communication are the new competitive advantage. While AI can easily replace or supplement an individual's knowledge, it can never replicate the deep, meaningful connections that build community, that build alignment, and drive peak performance in the workplace. The days of workers competing for knowledge are really behind us. Knowledge is now a commodity, available and accessible to all. And the rate of commoditization is actually growing. But what truly differentiates a workplace now is the ability to connect, collaborate, and build trusting relationships, the linchpins of company performance. So as we head into the future, we're really witnessing a watershed moment, the likes of which haven't been seen in decades. We've seen shifts of this magnitude before, but it's been quite some time. If you think of, maybe it's from social studies class, the agricultural revolution to the industrial revolution, the service economy to the knowledge economy. In a world where technology handles tasks and efficiency, we're now entering the relationship economy. It's now the uniquely human qualities like communication, collaboration, the ability to grow that are the drivers of success in companies. Recognition is not merely a tool for engagement, it's the foundation on which we build relationships that fuel employee development, retention, and performance. So as we step into the challenges of 2025 and beyond, one thing is certain. Organizations that prioritize recognition will shape the future. Before we move into Q&A, which we will definitely get to in just a minute, I did want to take a few minutes to help make some of these findings a little more useful and immediate for you. And as I'm sure you're aware, Employee Appreciation Day is right around the corner. So when I was thinking about what HR practitioners can do today to get ahead of these trends, I thought about what recognition done right looks like today, particularly in the context of a larger moment in time, like Employee Appreciation Day. Recognition done right is many things, but importantly, it's timely, personal, meaningful, tied to impact and frequent. And I want to take a minute to break down each one of these individually. Timely, meaning it's both in the sense of providing meaningful recognition in the moment when it happens, when it's warranted, but also tied to important events like birthdays, anniversaries, onboarding, and even those calendar events that we make up, like Employee Appreciation Day. So when you miss moments like this, people notice. Part of getting recognition done right is very simple. It's showing up in the first place at these key moments. It's personal. It's not enough to send a simple pat on the back or a generic thank you. Recognition is most effective when it's personalized and makes an individual feel seen. We found that inviting managers and peers into recognition giving helps add personalized human touches that make it matter more. And the reality is people's peers actually see more of their impact than their managers do. That's just the truth of it. So bonusly, for example, one thing that we're doing to maximize personal touch is by giving all employees additional points to award in the month of March, and really spreading Employee Appreciation Day into a full month of celebration of each other. We're empowering more giving from all directions, but importantly, the peer-to-peer and manager and employee or manager and team member connections. That way you're capturing personal wins and sharing stories that matter, but might otherwise get buried. So there is an element of intentionality that is critical to ensuring that this happens. The key here is really more human stories. The more personal, the better. From a meaningfulness perspective, that's where I see a lot of companies misstep. Sure, those branded socks or company pens might be well-intentioned, but they're not meaningful in the sense of recognition and acknowledging people's true value. Recognition done right really demands that the recognition that we give in the first place means something. That can be as simple as rewards that employees actually want. I saw on LinkedIn the other day that an employee once received a literal rock with the words on it that said, "You rock," etched into it as a token of appreciation for a major milestone event for a program that they were involved in. It didn't feel very meaningful to that individual given the personal sacrifice and challenge that they put themselves through to accomplish that. So we never want our recognition efforts to cause damage, and yet many last minute or poorly executed attempts at recognition are just one social media post away from going viral for all the wrong reasons. Meaningfulness isn't just about rewards, it's about the message and the context. So this Employee Appreciation Day, I really challenge you to think through the meaningfulness of what you're giving to your employees and the messages that go along with those. If they're not up to par, if you think they could be better, come talk to us. We have lots of resources that can help you craft your approach, even on in short term, preparing for later this week for Employee Appreciation Day. We can support you with that. Tied to impact, recognition done right isn't exclusively focusing on the feel good. It should also reinforce and enable the do good. And by that, I mean your team should know why that behavior matters, the value it adds, and understand really that they should be doing more of that type of behavior in the future. So being specific about the impact is what will take you from having a positive culture to having a culture with positive impact. And then finally, frequent. Recognition shouldn't be once a year, shouldn't be a once a year event. If you're saving acknowledgement of great work for performance reviews, my guidance is not to. Don't wait for milestone events like reviews or anniversaries or even Employee Appreciation Day. It's what you do in the small moments all along the way that have the biggest impact. I challenge you to reconsider recognition and how frequently it's offered. Make sure that the good work and behaviors are captured, communicated, and amplified consistently. Remember, Gallup recommends that for people to be engaged, they need to receive recognition at least once every 7 days. This doesn't mean it all falls to you as the HR leader. This means that we need to unlock the capabilities and the impact of our teams on this process as well. That level of frequency and intentionality is really the only way to make sure that your values and goals become muscle memory. So thank you for entertaining this whole conversation. I'm truly passionate about recognition done right and how we can impact your workplaces and make work better. I know that we're moving to Q&A. I think I may have over forwarded the slides. Sarah, keep me honest here.
Yes, no, you're great. We can move into the Q&A now. That makes perfect timing and sense. So thank you so much. That presentation was wonderful. So yes, thank you to Debra and our colleagues at Bonusly for that great presentation and conversation. This is a very important topic, and we appreciate your insights that you shared with us today. So we have several folks who are eager to carry on this conversation, so we'll dive into that Q&A next. But a friendly reminder to attendees, if you have any additional questions, please submit these using the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Before we dive into Q&A, we would also like to thank all of our friends and colleagues who tuned into today's session from around the world. Next time, bring a friend, certified or not, so that they can get a chance to hear insights on current HR services, developments, and technologies too. So now let's get to the fun part, the Q&A. We got a lot of really great questions, so I'm going to see if we could try to address as many of these as possible. So the first one that came up that I thought was really interesting, this person asked, what if you have an employee that has expressed not liking attention or really not preferring public recognition for their hard work? How do you address this? How do you still celebrate and acknowledge what they're doing without making it public if they prefer it not to be?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to know what people's preferences are and as much as possible accommodate that. One way that you can empower people is to communicate with them in the way that they prefer to be communicated with. So you may have like quarterly value awards, and you normally at a company all hands speak about individuals. People don't want to be put on the spot. If they've communicated that to you specifically, find ways to share the wins, but without making the person feel uncomfortable. So there are different ways that you can do this. One, to make it personal for them, I strongly encourage the use of video and sharing a bit of feedback personally, like in your own words that you can share with that individual. Give them the right to opt out of accepting, awards in front of the whole company or in front of teams, but make sure that you are keeping an eye on the true impact of that individual. So your manager still needs visibility into the impact that individual is having. Just having an open conversation about that, and then giving people the authority or the capability within your recognition platform to set up preferences that suit them better. You do want visibility into the great work that people are doing, but you don't want people to be uncomfortable in the process. So make sure that you understand the nuances and that the recognition approach and platform that you use, whether it's an actual online platform or you're talking about the platform that you're speaking from, when giving out quarterly value awards, for example, is meaningful to all involved.
Yeah, I love the idea of, asking your employees, how do you prefer to be recognized so that you know if, how they feel comfortable with certain things and not with others. So that's great. I love that suggestion. This one actually just came through and I thought was very interesting. This individual is asking, they said HR can be a thankless job most often. So then how can we help each other in HR achieve that recognition goal as well? How can you all in HR, be seen and acknowledged too?
I think this is such a great point. There are all kinds of unsung heroes within an organization, HR being one. And I can't overemphasize how hard the role of HR has become over the last 5 to 6 years with everything that's gone on in the world. So there are a few things. One, ensure that your leaders are actively engaged in providing recognition. Leaders often see the impact of these unsung heroes in ways that some members of the team don't. Ensure that there is parity and consideration in things like nominations for specific types of awards. Make sure that your awards capture the full impact of different types of teams. You often see, the person leading the sales pipeline or the sales wins or the people who are working with customers get lots of accolades because they're interfacing with more people. Make sure that you're prompting and reminding people that those people that operate behind the scenes also need that recognition. So a good recognition platform will actually prompt you for the people that you interface with. It will remind you that it's been, a month since you've recognized someone, and it will prompt you to think about your most recent engagement. We can't always keep on top of everything. So you want to use tools that help you identify that and definitely leverage your leaders to set the example there.
That's such a great response. And you must be psychic because somebody literally just asked, how can we prevent favoritism when we see a trend on recognition platforms? So recognition is done more broadly and fairly. Right. You want the same people to keep getting recognition. You want it to be spread out. So
Absolutely. And one of the important reasons that visible recognition really drives a better culture is that it actually opens the eyes of everything, that opens the eyes for everyone to what is actually going on across the business, not just those areas that you communicate with or work with on a regular basis. Other strategies are ensuring that you're not focused on like a year-long focus. You're focused, incrementally, week by week and month by month. How do you keep people engaged? How do you keep top of mind what's going well? How do you reinforce that in team meetings? Celebrate what you're seeing in your recognition feed and your recognition platform. I use it as a leader, as a tool to know what I need to reference and specifically celebrate in team meetings and one-on-ones so that people know that it's not just their peers seeing what's going on, but we're reinforcing it in individual meetings. And I see team members do that as well. So they'll join the all hands and they will actually comment on something that they saw written in the feed in the prior week about somebody that they don't necessarily get to meet with or engage with on a regular basis. And so it can create that sense of visibility, connectivity, and collaboration across the business.
I love that. That's great. Yeah. Sometimes, you're so focused on what you're doing each day. You don't know maybe what the other team. So it's a great way to kind of figure out what are we doing across the board and how do we all work together. That's wonderful.
Exactly.
This person actually had a specific question that I thought was very interesting. Their company just did an internal survey, and the lowest scored statement was, I have a best friend at work. And they'd like you to talk about ways to address this, especially in a remote environment.
Yeah, this is one of the questions that we debate a lot because I recall when we first started asking that question many years ago, and the workplace looked very different. You literally went to lunch with the same people and you went to break with the same people. And today, in a world where we're Zoom meeting to Zoom meeting to Zoom meeting, those impromptu connections don't always happen. So it's important to create an environment where you're supporting that happening. Give people the opportunity to develop buddies in their new hire cohort class, to connect with a long-term team member. Use the relevance that you see in the teams that should be working together to help inform cross-team events. We do a lot, especially these days, of team-focused events, but think in terms of product and engineering. Those two teams collaborate quite a bit. They're probably on back-to-back Zoom meetings quite a bit. Give them playtime to actually focus not on work topics, but to do engage in fun games together, get to know each other, have coffee chats, one-on-one or small groups. Really get them engaged in ways outside of a formal agenda type work meeting. You have to create those opportunities for building those warm one-to-one and small group relationships.
No, that completely makes sense. Yeah, we're also remote, so I know when we have meetings and we can start off with like, "How's your weekend? How are your kids?" It's a great way to help build those bonds, not just the Zoom meetings where you're talking business. So yeah,
Exactly. And people want to, we encourage people to bring their whole selves to work, but then we don't have space for it.
right.
So people want to be valued for their humanness and their uniqueness as well. And they want to feel connected to others who have similar challenges, like new moms, new parents, new homeowners, empty nesters. That's me.
Yep, so it's great to create that space where we can have that dialogue and get to know people better. No,
Yeah.
that's a great response. I thought that this was a really good basic question. It just allows you to get back to the basics. How do you define and recognize a disengaged versus an engaged employee? What can you look out for to kind of feel out of what you're currently doing at your company as far as recognition goes is actually working and helping, get people engaged and excited about what they're doing for the company. There are other ways
Yeah.
to identify that.
Yeah, so that's an interesting question, and it's really multifaceted. So there are a few things. One, we're going through a period of what we've coined the great detachment. So what you're not always getting is negative feedback. People actually opt out. Are they even responding to ways that they can share improvements or share their experience as a team member? If you have low response rates to your pulse surveys or engagement surveys, that's an indicator that you probably need to get in and go hands-on with those groups. Have conversations, have one-to-one conversations, have stay interviews. Don't rely solely on your managers to surface that. Sometimes they don't recognize what's happening. They just know that they're running into challenges. That's a great way for HR to partner with the business in identifying that. It used to be that people would share openly in engagement surveys. And it's not always the case any longer. But also look for subtle things like, when we had gone through some changes a few years ago, we would monitor the level of engagement in chat during all hands meetings. Are people speaking up? Do we have enough time to cover all the wins that people want to share in the open-ended section on wins at the beginning of the all hands meetings? These are all indications that you need to dig deeper. And so when you see these indicators of lack of engagement or lack of attachment to the organization, that's the time to leverage your relationship and your role as the HR business partner, not to go in and try to befriend people, but to truly understand the experience. Ask open-ended questions. Consider whether one-on-one meetings or small group focus groups would be impactful, but definitely be asking the questions and then use the insight that you get to share back what you're going to do. A big missing in these types of initiatives, whether it's engagement surveys or focus groups or stay interviews, is not closing the loop and telling people what you learned and what you're going to action. People don't expect you to do something with everything that they provide feedback on. But if they've given you the benefit of time and their thoughts and perspectives, and you don't share with them what you're going to do with it or take action at all from it, they're not going to share with you in the future, and the problem will actually get worse.
That completely makes sense. No, that's a great response. Thank you. Um, this individual was asking, if you're in HR and you work for an organization where employee retention is just not really prioritized right now. Long-term service is, usually not recognized or celebrated. So, how do you keep staff engaged and, retain them and keep them wanting to work with your company and for your company?
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. The tenure conversation has become quite a different conversation than it was even 10 years ago. Um, a year to 18 months is considered long-term in many environments, just based on what's going on in the world. So I look at it from the perspective of not measuring in years if that's not the focus of the company. But the reality is, for the humans involved, you want them to be fully engaged while they're here. So focus on the things that are going to bring clarity of understanding in helping them do their best work. So a lot of our opportunity with team members is really getting into their world and understanding the challenges that they face and making it easy for them to show up at their best. And that kind of investment will ensure that while they're here, however long it is, that they impact as much as they possibly can. So really dig deep. Don't allow a company lack of focus on tenure or just current dynamics to dissuade you from making the changes that have positive impact on the people here today. It will impact the people who join tomorrow, even if you lose some of your current team members.
Really makes sense. Let's see if we can squeeze like another one or two, and all these are very great, so try to fit in as many as possible. So this individual was asking, if your workplace is not creating a space for engagement that's fulfilling, how can you bring this to the surface and start to have that dialogue without coming off as complaining or ungrateful for the things that are currently in place if you think that there's room for improvement? And I thought this was specifically interesting because this person identified themselves as a Gen Zer. So they were just saying, we were talking about that earlier and how many Gen Zers are in the workforce now and they're our future of work. So they just wanted to figure out how to bring this up without being labeled as like they're complaining, and they just want to find balance since they're newer to the workforce.
Yeah. So let me just share with our Gen Zers and our millennials in the group. I'm a Gen Xer, and when I entered the workforce, there was all kinds of mystique around Gen Xers. Every generation gets, a label. Don't be distracted by that. We're all humans who are looking to do our best. What I would offer is don't focus on what the negative version of it is. Come in with recommended solutions and offer to help be part of the solution. If you want to create more connection in the workplace, instead of saying, can you set up these programs for us? Come to the conversation saying, would you like to do this with me? Do you have any concerns with me, pursuing this? Or I've looked into this and I think that this would help us, and here is why. So instead of focusing on we're not doing X, position it from the perspective of I would like to do Y. Here's the reason, and here's what I'm willing to do as part of that. Will you help me? Will you work with me? And not make it a big thing.
Yeah, I love that suggestion. I think that's great. I'm gonna squeeze one more in really fast before we wrap up. So this individual is asking, when you have a lot of frontline workers, how can you help to increase their participation in recognition when maybe they're not as tech savvy, or they're not in front of their laptops all the time, and we're usually doing these virtually, especially for remote. Like, how can you get these folks involved too?
Yeah, I think you need to meet your team members where they're at. When you're looking at people who are not desk workers, you need to have your recognition embedded within the tools that they're using, and you need your recognition platform to have applications that reside on their laptops or on their handhelds that support that. And you need to make it easy. If typing is not a thing for somebody who's not a desk worker, then allow them to record audio or to record a video or do voice to text. I always get that backwards. You need to choose a partner and an approach that resonates for your team, and that's meeting them where they're at and meeting them in a way that they are comfortable providing that recognition. I myself am not a huge fan of recording video recognition, but I absolutely love recording my thoughts and then typing out and correcting and kind of refining the message. Meet people where they're at, make it easy.
I love those suggestions. Thank you. Thank you so much for all of your thoughtful responses. So that's going to wrap up our Q&A session for the day. Thanks to everyone for attending. We really appreciate you and your time. Today's recertification ID is 698133. Again, that is 698133, and this program has been approved for 1 business credit towards recertification. Thanks again, Deborah. Thanks again, everybody, and I hope everyone has a wonderful week. Take care.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, everyone.